Hello and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. I'm Aaron Porras, here with ILTV's Morning Briefing. After President Trump threatened to slash aid to the Palestinians for refusing to negotiate, conflicting reports say the United States has already done exactly that. Israeli media claims the United States has frozen nearly $125 million of aid to the United Nations Refugee Agency for Palestinians, reports that the United States State Department fully denies. According to the United States, the matter is still, quote, under review. American ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, meanwhile, is reportedly in an uproar, clashing with U.S. state, defense, and intelligence officials over the reported aid cuts. Israeli leadership, meanwhile, has been cautious of backing such a plan. Though Israel is intensely critical of UNRWA, accusing the agency of rerouting funds to protect Palestinian terrorists, Israeli officials realize that cutting millions of dollars in aid to the Palestinians would not only be a crippling humanitarian issue, but would also likely trigger unprecedented waves of violence, terror, and unrest. Word is that Prime Minister Netanyahu does, however, approve of a gradual decreasing of aid to UNRWA, and would prefer redirecting this money to a different Palestinian aid agency in the UN. For many, the unthinkable may actually be in the works. A bombshell report that has just quoted a top Hamas official who says the terror group is ready to give up its weapons in exchange for official membership in the PLO. Hamas leaders are said to be prepared to do anything to advance reconciliation with the Palestinian Authority. But the issue of Hamas's 25,000-member army has remained the biggest hurdle in making that a reality. Hamas has denied any willingness to give up its weapons, but rumor has it that the terror group's leader, Yahya Sinwar, has actually himself instead proposed combining Hamas's militia with the PA's, and then placing everything under the umbrella of the PLO. This would be in exchange for key leadership roles in the PLO, which would then be tasked with moving the Palestinian agenda forward. Though this is still rumor, it does coincide with reports that the PA has agreed to resume funding electricity payments in Gaza. Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas first cut those payments in order to force Hamas back to the negotiating table. Though that brutal tactic has cost the citizens of Gaza dearly, clearly it may have done exactly what Abbas intended, especially if these latest rumors of a demilitarized Hamas turn out to be true. Not everyone in the country is on board with the new and controversial mini-markets bill that stands to drastically limit the number of businesses allowed to work on the Sabbath. And now the Likud is threatening to revoke party memberships over that vote. Likud party MK Sharren Haskel has stated alongside several other party members that they would not be intimidated or bullied into voting with the coalition, but against their conscience. Haskel said the bill would discriminate between municipalities since some areas like Tel Aviv would be exempt while other cities' economies would suffer. In response, the Likud and coalition chairman David Amsalem accused Haskel and anyone else who doesn't vote with the party of violating Likud bylaws. He said, quote, MK Haskel was not elected in direct elections. The people of Israel voted for the Likud led by Benjamin Netanyahu and not for Sharren Haskel, so she has an obligation to be loyal to Likud, end quote. Haskel is far from the only party member feeling the pressure too. Likud MK Yehuda Glick was asked to leave his house of mourning by Shas Minister Aryeh Deri to come for a vote just a day after his wife's funeral. Deri was not successful and the vote was postponed, but in the wake of these threats, several have noted that Netanyahu has likewise broken from the party line with no repercussions, so it doesn't look like Haskel will go down without a fight. It's been a month since President Donald Trump officially recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital on behalf of the United States, and already several other nations have shown interest in following the U.S.'s lead. First and foremost is Central American Guatemala, which has not only already confirmed that it will also move its embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, but that they will help any other country thinking of doing so themselves. Guatemala has been a very long-term friend of the Israelis even since before 1948. In fact, it was Guatemala that helped rally several other nations to vote for the partition of mandatory Palestine in 1948 at the UN. According to Guatemalan Foreign Minister Sandra Jovel, quote, obviously President Trump's decision helped in a way because we can do it together as allied nations, but our decision was a sovereign decision based on Guatemala's foreign relations as they pertain to Israel. The moment was a good moment to stand by an ally and do it, end quote. While previous Guatemalan administrations have also promised to move the embassy, Jovel added that this time, quote, President MULLS is firm in his decision and determined to see the embassy moved, and that we want to make sure it gets done, and that it gets done right and at the proper time. The ongoing anti-regime protests in Iran, now in their second straight week, have opened up an interesting glimpse into the true relationships between the average Iranian and Israeli peoples. Prime Minister Netanyahu and several other Israeli leaders have already voiced their support for the Iranians in the streets, but now both Israeli individuals on social media and peace-promoting organizations like Stand With Us are sending out their messages of solidarity too. On social media groups like Israel Loves Iran, which has over 100,000 followers, people ask for updates about the well-being of Iranian protesters and liken the anti-corruption protests in Iran to those held in Tel Aviv and Petah Tikva over the past year. Stand With Us went one step further, releasing new video compilations of dozens of Israelis sending supportive messages to the Iranian people in English, Farsi, and Arabic. Many said emphatically that the Israeli and Iranian people are first and foremost not enemies, and that the Israeli people stand with the Iranians in their, quote, rightful fight. Another reiterated that, quote, people of Iran, you are not alone, and fighting for justice for all of you is the only cure for the corruption that is dividing your country, and many of us in Israel are standing with you in your fight for basic human rights, end quote. Response from Iranian nationals across the globe has also been mostly positive, acknowledging the same idea that peoples and governments are not one and the same. As the protests have gone on in Iran, over 22 people have already been killed and over 1,000 arrested.
That's all for now. I'm Aaron Porras, and see you later with our main daily broadcast from Israel at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.